Hi, and welcome to today's video where I will be talking about what does a project manager do, what importance they play, some of the roles that the project manager does within the project lifecycle, understanding your team, setting clear goals and objectives, effective communication, a little bit about risk management, some techniques that project managers or tools project managers could use. We'll be covering what a project manager does. Now, here's a definition. Project manager is the art and science of making things happen. It's about envisioning the goal, then orchestrating people, processes, and resources, turn that vision into reality, all while navigating the complexities and uncertainties of modern business landscape. So in a nutshell, project management is delivering a project or a product or a service from point A to point B and making sure that you get through that journey using the people, resources, and tools. I'm going to cover some of the roles of what project manager does. Now, firstly, there's planning. This is where they create a plan, define goals, tasks, schedules, and resources, where they put the overall picture of the plan of what's going to be delivered, who's going to do what, when. Then you've got executing, so actually starting the project, so implementing the project plan, completing the work, and managing the teams. So actually getting the work done. Now, throughout this process of execution, you also monitor. So monitoring is where you track progress, resolve issues, report performance, that you are having checkpoints throughout your project. Say, okay, phase one has been done. This is what we've achieved, X, Y, and Z. Phase two, X, we are moving into phase two. And then when you've done complete your phase two, you do that. And that's all part of your monitoring. And you're also reporting back at that point to your senior stakeholders. And then finally, when you get to the end, it's closing the project where you finalize all the project activities, documentations, lessons learned, all the things that are outstanding. I'm going to say this is what we've achieved. Now, project managers need to have strong leadership skills, communication skills, problem solving, and negotiation skills to deliver projects successfully. Now, as part of the project manager, there are multiple skills you need, multiple hats you need to wear. But as a project manager, through time, you will develop those skills. And the more practice you have with projects, the more interaction you have with people, the better your skill set becomes. And I'll use myself as a prime example. I have done project management. I contract into multiple businesses. I've done private sector, public sector businesses. I've been involved at very different levels of pressure, at different levels of bureaucracy. And you start learning how to manage that and become better at it. Sometimes you have to fall to succeed. And as a project manager, you will. But remember, every time you fall, you learn from those things and you better yourself. Okay. You will fail at some things because as a person, you are not perfect. You will have skills or tools that are not in your remit and you have to learn those, or you will learn things from other people saying, actually, I can incorporate that better for me. And that will happen through time. As a project manager, you need to know your team, who's doing what, when, how, and understanding what role each team member plays. Now, theoretically, they're your stakeholders. You'll get senior level, lower level, medium level, whatever level they are all your stakeholders. They will either have part to play in your project, and knowing your team around you, all levels, is really important. You need to understand your team's capabilities through assessing and understanding team leads to better assign tasks, how you collaborate with them, and which will, in overall essence, will help with the performance of your delivery. Next is really you assign the roles. Here you are watching your team. You're thinking, actually, that person A is better at doing this, person B is better at doing that. Sometimes you get it wrong. Don't worry about it. As you get through, if you don't ask the right question, don't be afraid to ask. People say, okay, if you can't do it, who should be doing it? You are not meant to know everything as a project manager. Use the people around you. And then finally, as a project manager, you should be encouraging collaboration. Create opportunities for team members to collaborate, learn from each other. Ultimately, you are only as good as the people around you. As a project manager, you cannot deliver your project, but the people around you, you cannot rally and bring together. So get them to collaborate, get them to work together and get things done. And you have to do that through setting smart goals and objectives. And that's the next thing we'll cover. So next is really setting clear goals and objectives as part of your project. Now, There's a term called SMART, which is you use specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals. So people know how to achieve an activity. So you set the clear expectations. You are very specific in the task. You make it measurable. Say, okay, your outcome will be X, Y, and Z. Can it be achievable? Setting a goal that's unachievable is unrealistic. You mustn't do that. Is it relevant? It's really important. Do you need to do it now? Is it relevant to the project? And also set time frame when this activity will be done. Really, really important that you do that. Will help establish clear timeline when things are expected, because it will align with the wider plan. Set clear objectives. What are you trying to achieve? Well-defined objectives provide direction, focus for your team. And that's really important. Without that, the team are looking to you as the project manager to give them clear direction of what needs to be done. And as a project manager and the title manager, you are the leader. So you must do this and make sure that your objectives are very clear and clearly defined. Next is you've got to align your goals and objectives there. Aligning your goals must align to make sure that you are executing the project at the right time to meet the end goal of the project. That will need to align with your senior stakeholders, who are either your finance, etc., or align with the phase that you are doing your project in. Whatever part of the project is, you as a project manager, you need to align the activities that are best to execute your deliverables for your team. Ultimately, having clear goals and objectives will help progress your team. None of those work without real, good, effective communication strategies. Now, as a project manager, one of your key roles will be communicating every day in, day out of things that need to be done. Effective communication ensures alignment and prevents conflict. Now, conflict management is another area that I'll cover, but good communication means that you can make sure you've got regular updates. People know where they stand. They have a clear clear understanding of what their expectations are and when they're doing that. Now, good communication is really, really important. Now, sometimes you can struggle with that because it's hard. You've got senior stakeholders who can be very demanding, but however, stand your ground as a project manager. It's important to state your communication. Make sure you've got a clear message. However, also be prepared to learn from others who are communicating to you, which is really important. And again, open communication. It has to be a two-way thing. You cannot be telling everybody what to do, because don't forget, as a project manager, you are not the expert. The other people around you are the experts who will feed into you, which will help you make decisions. And again, to support your communication, clear documentation, whether you do that via email, reports, raid logs, RACI logs, whatever it may be, those communication strategies need to be put in place effectively and documented so that people understand. There's no ambiguity and misunderstanding. And if there is, we're following up with good documentation. Make sure that you've covered all bases. Except for the lighting projects, they come back and say, you never said this. Cover yourself as a project manager by documenting it in some sort of format, whether it be a RAID log, an email, that will come back to you. It works both ways. If you make a mistake, you're held accountable as well. Another part of project management is risk management. All project managers will have to manage risk. This is where things will appear unexpectedly, things that will not go to plan because either you've got sickness or your stock hasn't arrived on time, weather conditions have delayed stuff, the stakeholders, the business has changed its strategy, you need to realign your project. All those things bring risk into your project. As a project manager, you need to identify those risks and document them, very key. Then you need to analyze those risks and make an assessment of what impact and what priority they sit in. Sometimes somebody might bring a risk which may be 12 months down the line. You don't need to worry about it. You just need to know about it. But there might be something saying, actually, we planned this piece of work and suddenly our senior engineers who were doing the work have had to take leave, or they've been moved to another project and we need to replan. That's risking the timeline. And then you have to look at saying, well, how do we mitigate that risk? How do we either replan the work? Do we find another alternative? Do we accept the risk? Accepting the risk sometimes, I'm sorry, we can't do anything about it. We've tried everything. We have to accept the risk. But those are things that you have to do, is first identify the risk, analyze the risk, assess the risk and its importance, and then understand how you mitigate that risk. How will you manage that risk moving forward? And finally, make sure you document that risk in some sort of manner. I'd like to do it on RAID log. depending on the project, but at least you've got some sort of documentation. So as project managers, there are multiple tools out there to help you do project. Now, as a project manager, you will need tools to help you do your project management. Now, simply doing it on Excel spreadsheets, yes, you can do that on small projects, but there are a vast amount of tools out there. So for communication, for example, we can use Teams, email. For your task management, you've got tools like Trello, help you make sure you assign tasks, but you can use MS Project for that as well. MS Project is more of a time management piece of software, which helps you build out the whole project as a list of complete timeline, what we estimate things will happen, and when we estimate things to be completed. Ultimately, choosing the right project manager tool based on your needs and team's dynamics is key for efficient execution. Now, that's really important. It doesn't matter how many tools are out there, using the right one is really key. And with the introduction of AI at the moment, there are a huge number of AI tools. And I use Otto.ai, for example, to document all my minutes. Teams, Copilot within Microsoft, who have just released Copilot. All that has AI tools in there that help you document things. So, for example, AI would be a good help for documenting your minutes within Teams, actions, etc., which then means that you summarize activities more efficiently and will spend less time as a project manager sitting there typing away, making minutes, etc. Now, remember with AI, it's new, it's coming in, but it's a massive game changer within project management. Depending on your organization, where you are, what they're doing, be careful about using AI and make sure you get permission before using it, because there are data protection governance issues that you need to consider. But overall, as a project manager, there are a huge number of tools out there for your disposal to help you manage those. And depending on the organization, they might have a set of tools that you must use, and then you have no flexibility. However, if you are independent, you're going out there, like I do contracting, there are huge number of tools, which I will cover in a separate video of what tools I feel are really good to use, but really understanding the tools that you need and getting the right ones for your team are really key. So in conclusion, mastering project management requires multiple skills, techniques, and tools. But in essence, your role as a project manager is from getting the project from point A to point B, with effective tools that are available to you, making sure you've set yourself clear goals, effective communication, managing risk, and leveraging the people around you to get things done. As project manager, don't forget, you are not expected to know everything. Use the people around you to get things done. I always say this, you are only as good as the people around you, and it's up to you to make sure as a project manager, you bring and collaborate with these people. That concludes today's video. Thank you for listening. If you found it useful, please click on subscribe and leave your comments.